Welcome to the Internet, live from the Marriott Library at the University of Utah. This is the Red Line Podcast. I'm your host, quote, a rapidly increasing number of raccoons in a trench coat, unquote, and these are my co-hosts,
Kyle Holland and
Alex Fielder. Today we're starting Bay Month in honor of Host 1 and 2's recent trip to San Francisco. Today it's all about Caltrain, the oldest operating commuter railroad on the West Coast. All this after the news.
That was
what even is the news intro? Is that even the right sound? I don't think that's the right
I have
sound.
it in my computer.
Yeah, you should play it.
The King of Prussia rail extension is dead! Long live the Roosevelt Boulevard subway! After years of poor planning and a final report suggesting abysmal ridership, SEPTA's King of Prussia rail extension has been shelved after failing to secure federal funding. The roughly 4-mile extension to the Norristown high-speed line, SEPTA's strangest trolley metro hybrid, would have cost over $2.5 billion to build and carried less than 15,000 riders per day, making it one of the most colossal cost-per-rider disasters in recent history. Local advocates now hope that SEPTA's attention will be redirected to the most higher ridership Local advocates now hope that SEPTA's attention will be redirected to the much higher ridership Roosevelt Boulevard subway project, a long proposed extension to the Broad Street line, which would serve transit-starved Northeast Philadelphia.
Interesting you put transit in useful places.
I'm glad it's dead.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I love the Norristown high-speed line. I think it's very fun.
Okay, but this project, the King of Prussia extension, was supposed to be part of like a commuter rail system extension.
Yes, that they
Note part of.
That then they didn't do because reasons, mostly. And then they were going to put battery trains, and then they didn't do that because reasons. And then they were going to do this, and it was going to be $600 million, and that probably would have been fine.
Yeah.
And then because...
Wait, how did we get to $2.5 billion?
Cost snake.
How? It's not even funny, it's just...
Well, I mean, this one must have been like a freaking, like, you know, one of the ones that can swallow like a whole alligator all at once or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever that is, like a...
Is that a boa?
Python? Python? I don't know.
There's too many cost snakes.
Yeah. This one is like swallows the whole alligator and then shits it out all at once. Like,
you know, back in my day, projects used to just double in price and get built, but worse. And these days, they just don't build them at all.
Yeah, quadruple in price and then not get built.
It's not even funny anymore.
It is funny.
It's funny when it's the King of Prussia.
Price just starts going up
terrible.
over time and until it hits the cancel ceiling.
Yes. Well, anyway.
Unless it's New York, in which case they build it anyways because it's
going to
get 200,000 riders per minute.
We talked last time on the news that there was
the airport extension.
The airport extension got canceled because of the cost.
Into an improved busway, right?
Yeah, into an improved
which is going to cost as much
which
as the airport
also
extension
cost $500 million.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know.
Who is embezzling all this money?
Can I have some?
Yeah.
I'll do graft for money.
Anyways, listeners, go read the Transit Cost Projects report and case studies and...
Do they have a King of Prussia rail extension? They should have a King
They
of
should
Prussia
have one.
extension case study.
They should.
Maybe we should do one.
Yeah, and when I say less than
email it
50,
to
I
them.
said less than 15,000, but the actual number was like 12,000 riders a day. So let's do the math here real quick of...
For cost per daily rider?
2.512123 divided by 12,000. Yeah, so only $208,000 per daily rider, which is a lot. I'll say.
That's just bad. You could buy like 6 whole parking garage spaces for that price. I'm not kidding. That's the actual price it costs to build them.
Yeah. So, anyway, it's dead. Good riddance.
It should probably cost as much as like maybe 1 or 2 parking garage spaces, not 6.
No.
This is the standard unit of cost per daily rider, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, good riddance.
Good riddance.
Yep.
Goodbye. Okay, so.
Has that been the news?
That has been the news. Okay, time for the show. No trademark.
And no question.
And no question today.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we can make a question if you want.
Okay.
So, time for the eternal...
Oh.
So, I just want to take a sec before we start talking about Caltrain to... What is your problem, dude? You can't see, but Kyle is, like, doing actionable threats at us across the table.
In Minecraft.
No.
We all
Not
have,
in Minecraft.
we all have Minecraft open right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so, basically, Kyle and I have recently been in a vacation to places, for example, the Bay Area and Portland, Oregon. So,
for example, there are many other places on this list.
Hey, we were briefly in Oakland and
Emeryville.
And we spent a decent amount of time sleeping in Beaverton. We got food in Beaverton too once, so there you go. But anyway, yeah, we went on vacation to the Bay Area and Portland, and so I've decided that we are going to revisit transit in Portland in the future. But for now, we're going to do a massive 4-part series on the Bay Area because there is just a billion things to cover. So today, episode 1 of 4 will be Caltrain. Next week will be BART. The week after that will be Muni/SFMTA. And week 4, I will try and squeeze in literally everything else, which is, in and of itself a lot. So, yeah.
Yeah?
It's a big place, much transportation. Are we going to have an AC Transit episode?
No.
Aww.
AC Transit is not enough to get its own episode.
Ouch.
Like, just, no offense to AC Transit, I'm sure it's real nice and stuff, but, like, there's just a lot going on. And I'm going to focus on places that have, like, trains in them. So,
this is basically the metric for what is a meaningful and notable transit agency. Does it have trains?
Does it own trains? It makes it a major transit agency most of the time, with, like, a couple of exceptions.
Yeah.
So, that being said, it's time for a short lesson in transit balkanization. As has been mentioned, transit in the San Francisco Bay Area is incredibly complicated with a multitude of different providers, modes, and service areas. For example, there are 4 different commuter rail operators, a regional metro, 2 light rail operators, and something like 30 bus operators, and 2 ferry operators as well. So,
that's not much light rail.
No, it's not. But, like, in terms of length, it's pretty long, like, because, like, Muni has its light rail and the VTA has light rail as well.
It's about quality.
It is about quality. That's right. In that case, VTA would not qualify. But there are obviously a few prominent and famous agencies, mostly BART and Muni. BART is, kind of big deal, post-war regional metro, fast trains, big trains, grade separated electricity, and Muni is just famous because it has cable cars mostly and also its own little mini metro. Some might say a Muni metro. Thank you. I'll be here all day.
And, the streetcars that go on really, really old routes and act like they're doing the same.
Excuse me, you will not criticize my beloved N. Judah. He wants to criticize the N. Judah, you can tell. Man, the N. Judah is my favorite transit route on the planet at the moment, so...
What is the N. Judah?
The N. Judah is
one of Muni's streetcar lines.
One of Muni's metro lines.
One of Muni's streetcar lines.
It's not a streetcar, it is light rail. It's different. They have a streetcar line, that's the F market.
Their light rails run in the middle of the street.
Yeah, but it had separated lanes for most of its length. Anyway, it runs from Ocean Beach to the Caltrain depot, so via the Market Street subway, which basically everything runs through. So
popular line then, right?
Yes, actually one of Muni's more popular light rail lines.
They have several others, much radial, very Bay Area.
It's not very radial.
Look on a map.
Well, I know, but it only radiates in one direction, so...
Because there is only one direction.
So,
you want ones that, like, convert into boats going the other way?
yeah, I think we should do the second Transbay crossing as a Muni line and not as a Caltrain line. That would be much better.
Yeah, and it's going to cost $3 billion per foot.
Look, the Central Subway was, compared to some other transit projects recently, reasonably priced. And also very nice, if they had not been stupid and put 4-car trains in instead of 2. So.
Well, but you see, we couldn't possibly modify the rest of the route to support 4-car trains.
No.
Not at all. Definitely not with the over $1 billion we spent on the subway. We also couldn't have just made the platforms
$1 billion
longer.
per mile. Yeah, because you'll notice all the platforms in the Market Street subway, I don't know, you could fit like 7-car Muni trains onto those suckers.
So maybe they should have made the other platforms long.
As Kyle would say, concept.
And then maybe also cut down on the grandeur of the stations.
They weren't that grandiose.
Yeah.
They were just kind of an open hole with some like concrete cylinders in them mostly.
Yeah, that's pretty fancy.
Well,
Here, I'll show you a picture so you
terms
can
of, like,
understand what I mean
volume.
here.
Yeah, I'll
My
have to see
concrete
all of these
picture.
pictures.
Yeah, I'll have to send you like the lot, as it were. Yeah, this is a picture of a station in the Central Subway.
It looks not too different from the Link stations,
Yes.
to be honest.
Yeah, it's pretty similar, and then it has kind of this big entry hall and stuff as well.
See, that's not like that grandiose.
No, the one at Powell's a little more impressive than that one, but anyway. Well, not Powell, Union Street, because it's a different station even though it's directly connected to Powell. Yeah, so that's Bay Area Transit and also me ranting about Muni for a second.
Bay Area Rapid Transit.
Sure, Kyle.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, so now we get to talk about Caltrain. So one of the kind of notable weird things in transit topography in the Bay Area is that there is no BART line, like, south of San Francisco on the peninsula that San Francisco's on, right? All the BART lines go off to the east and serve the East Bay and, you know, kind of Oakland, Richmond, Berkeley.
I mean, it does go a little bit
Union
south
City.
down to, like, Daly City, which is, like, not very far.
Yes, it does go to Daly City. But that's not, yeah, like Kyle said, that's not super far, and that's kind of like a weird gap in transit topography, right? Because like you'd expect, that's a valuable connection to have in terms of rail transit.
Man, I wonder what commuter train service might exist in this gap.
Yes, so reading directly off the script, quote, instead of BART, we have Caltrain, a relatively frequent regional rail operator, and our subject for the day.
Yes.
Cool. And then I guess on the Marin County side, there's the Smart Train. That doesn't go over the bay, so I don't feel
That's
the need
the
to...
other weird-ass gap in...
Okay, so the bay is the east side. What's the other side called? The Golden Gate Bridge goes over. The Golden Gate?
That would be the Golden Gate, yes, but to the west is just the ocean.
Ah, so the Smart Train does not go over the ocean.
The Smart Train...
Or under the ocean.
The Golden Gate is part of the bay, like, that's the end of the bay, right? The bay is all the water inside of the San Francisco thing.
Okay, so the Smart Train does not go over, under, or through the bay.
Well, the Smart Train doesn't go much of anywhere, given that it runs, like, every hour and a half at best.
Hour and a half at best?
I tried to ride it. I couldn't manage it. I just got off the Golden Gate bus in Sausalito and took a ferry back to San Francisco.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
So Caltrain, it goes south of San Francisco.
It goes south. It runs from San Francisco through the peninsula down to San Jose and a little bit further, but most trains terminate at San Jose because everything further south than San Jose is an even more insignificant suburb. So, and as I've said before, you know, San Jose is kind of like 4 suburbs in a trench coat with a nice downtown. So you know.
So BART has the east side of the bay, and
Caltrain has the west, mostly.
Seems pretty nice.
Yeah, there's a lot of criticism about this because People like BART better than Caltrain because it's cheaper. But anyway,
But it has more shootings. So, you win some, you lose some.
this is true.
Shooting to cost ratio.
BART, yeah.
Wow.
BART was a little sketch, not gonna lie.
This is well known.
Yeah. So, going into the history of Caltrain, several attempts were made to build a railroad on the San Francisco Peninsula starting in the early 1850s, but none were successful until the following decade. The original railroad line between San Francisco and San Jose was built in 1863 by the San Francisco and San Jose Railroad, who operated both freight and passenger traffic on the line until 1870, when it was bought out by the Southern Pacific. Southern Pacific would operate the line for over...
Southern Pacific?
Yes. They ran the, I believe the, main railroad between San Francisco and, all the way down to San Diego.
Let me guess, they joined with Northern Pacific to make Union Pacific?
Actually, I believe that may be the correct thing, yes.
That sounds about right.
This is massively uncreative.
I like railroad naming conventions. They're fun.
Citation needed.
So they would operate the line for over 100 years until the beginning of subsidization in 1980. And during that time, they built a number of cutoffs along the line, reducing travel times and continually improved service from their purchase to the beginning of their decline in the wake of the Second World War.
Improving service?
Well, yeah, because they could make money. Because this is an old railroad, right? So they buy this thing in 1870. Was there a such thing as the automobile in 1870?
Nope, it was just the horse-drawn streetcar.
It's just sadness and people walking.
Right.
Which is definitely depressing.
Depressing. How dare you
yeah.
walk?
Imagine walking and seeing people you like and
if you're walking through
stores.
horse shit, it's probably a bit depressing.
Well, that's what you have those that's what sidewalks were invented for.
Because
Because the horse shit would be in the middle of the street and then people would walk on the sidewalks.
Peak engineering.
Yes. So as San Francisco kind of emerged in the late 1800s, early 1900s as the financial capital of the West Coast, which it probably still is, or at least the Bay Area is, all these people living in San Jose and whatever was the precursor of Daly City and all the other weird little towns on the peninsula. They need to go to job in San Francisco, and the only way to do that is via the Southern Pacific's Commute.
So hence they made a lot of money.
The train's name was Commute.
Oh.
It was not commuter. It was not like Southern Pacific Commuter Railway or something. It was just called the Commute.
Because it is.
I guess there's no confusing that then.
I mean,
Because
yeah,
it's the only option.
it feels weird to me. Why would just add an R?
But it's
italic.
It's the commute. It's
There
the
isn't a
only
different
one. Yeah. It's the only commute you can do is on the commute.
Is on the commute. That's true, I guess. Yeah. So, like I said, they were doing a lot of improvements because they were making money on this thing. They tossed around electrification a lot of different times because they were, running a lot of trains, and steam trains are not, super efficient and stuff. And they're expensive to operate.
And they're paying to refuel, and they're paying to fill with water, and they accelerate slowly.
Yeah, and they also quad track the line in some places, and yeah. So Southern Pacific did a pretty good job running this whole service until about 1945. Now, can anyone in the class tell me what happened in 1945?
World War II ended.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so suddenly, everyone can drive their car again, their car that they bought at the end of the when the Great Depression had just ended, and America's like, hooray, we're going to start doing suburbanization real quick. And then Japan was like, instead of doing that, you're going to do war for 5 years and then suburbanization.
And then, we have our, war rationing or whatever.
Yes.
Rubber tire donation.
Yeah.
Tire drive.
Right, so everybody's, donated their tires so they can't drive to work. But that's...
Not a bad idea.
That's over. So suddenly this thing just starts hemorrhaging riders, just
Because it now has competition in the form of the automobile and probably city and state constructed highways. Wasn't the Interstate Act a bit later?
Interstate Act was a bit later, but they were already starting to build these things even before the interstate highways became a thing.
They're not all told fairly.
Yes, and I believe that one of the main highways on the peninsula was built before the Interstate Act. It's the 101 now. It's like 10 lanes and terrible, and everybody
And it was
hates
built to make a profit and recoup its construction costs.
Well, no.
And herein lies the problem why the railroad is hemorrhaging money. Because it's
Yes.
competing against subsidized.
And, this also killed a lot of other, like, famous Bay Area transit. Like, the Key service was the, like, pre-BART.
Ooh.
Like, it served the East Bay, and it was an electrified interurban railway, which does sound kind of familiar.
Cool.
So, yeah. So it's, just bleeding riders until 1977, when California's like, crap, we're going to lose the commute. And traffic on the 101, despite it being 10 lanes and terrible, is terrible.
Really? Did not see that coming. That's never happened
Shocker.
on a non-toll highway before.
We don't want to lose the commute. So instead of, like, doing the thing that everyone else had already done, like, literally 10 years earlier,
Give it up and give it to Amtrak.
buy it somehow, or
okay.
subsidize operations. Like Metra, MBTA had done this, New York, every major commuter railroad had done this at this point. But instead of doing anything logical like that, they're just like, all right, well, it's the year of our Lord, 1977. We're going to allow municipalities to make bulk purchases of tickets to help subsidize the service.
So they just directly gave money to the private company operating the service.
So Daly City would just, like, if it wanted trains to keep stopping in Daly City, would have to buy, like, 15,000 tickets every year or whatever.
Huh.
Instead of Caltrain's just, buying out the system and running it themselves.
Yes.
This is a sane life decision.
Yeah, it was I thought that was kind of a weird interim measure.
Very weird.
But then in 1980, the State Transportation Agency, also known as Caltrans, made the decision to begin directly subsidizing commute service. And this is where the service draws its name from today, Caltrans Train, also known as Caltrain, or California Train, but I'm inclined to think that it's probably Caltrans Train instead of California Train, considering it doesn't serve, most of California.
We should rename it to the first Caltrans train, because at the rate we're going.
Yes, well, those are Amtrak California now. So, they also bought new rolling stock to supplement and replace the by then decrepit Southern Pacific trains.
Which have probably been around since, they were invented.
Yes. I believe, last steam trains ran on the line in, the 50s, but,
goodness.
these are probably just, the worst diesel ever at this point.
Yeah.
Just, burnt, rolling coal everywhere they go. Yeah, and then in 1987, Caltrans was like, all right, well, instead of doing this stupid crap, we're going to allow Southern Pacific to abandon the service, and it's going to become under a joint powers board, which controls it to this day.
Now we have Caltrain.
And now we have Caltrain. Caltrain exists now.
Improvements continued apace once the line was brought out and under public ownership, with new connections and much improved service.
Yeah, so new connections include the My Beloved N. Judah was extended in 1998 to the Caltrain depot, providing a direct link from Unimetro to Caltrain.
Wow.
And then also Samtrans, which is the very fun, right? Samtrans, which is the bus agency for the South Peninsula, started running more service and employment shuttles and all sorts of fun stuff.
Because unfortunately, Caltrain does not run in the Market Street subway. They should have built it at 3 levels.
They should have. That would have been cool. Then you could have gone. The fun thing in the escalators in the Market Street subway when you come up from BART is that you go through the Muni platform and you just get to look around and see all the people waiting for Muni trains. It's very fun.
Yeah, don't they have some gates these days for transfers without going all the way up and all the way back down?
I don't think so.
They should.
I mean, we didn't see any. We were in there quite a bit.
I didn't look too hard either.
That's true.
I was too busy getting lost.
Well, electrification began to be studied seriously for the first time since the early SP days in the 2000s, and service improvements continued apace despite a number of serious budget issues in the aughts.
Yeah, so kind of a defining characteristic of Caltrain's history is budget issues, because...
As with any good transit agency.
Yes, truly. And so they have a very, fare box dependent revenue structure, which in some ways is good because it means if they can increase ridership, they can, make more money. And in other ways is bad because if external factors cause them to lose ridership, then they lose money.
So what was there at the time fare box recovery ratio?
60s and 70s, mostly.
That would do it.
Yeah, so they were very heavily reliant on fare box revenue, and the rest was kind of really inconsistent subsidies. Like they didn't have a dedicated funding structure outside of fare box revenue.
What is this, the London Underground?
Yes, basically.
It's cool that they have such a high fare box recovery, but yeah, that's a bit of an issue that they can't. Had such a high fare box recovery, but yeah, a bit of an issue that they can't have consistent money.
Yeah, and so all the success, they were able to introduce skip-stop trains and also what they call baby bullet express trains. That was in 2004, which made as few as 4 stops between San Jose and San Francisco.
I wouldn't name it the baby bullet, but that's service, so...
I was very confused by that as well. I'm like, why is it the baby bullet?
It sounds like something out of, Mario Kart. Or...
yeah, the little, you get...
It's like
if
a
you're
bullet
in,
bill.
12th place, you get, a little, power-up box, and then you get, the jet one. You're like, yes, I can go for it. That's a baby bullet to me.
Except it's just a weaker version. It takes you to, 5th place. So.
It takes... Yes. Yeah. So these baby bullet trains were good, though, because the full runtime of a local Caltrain train, wow, that's a mouthful, is an hour and a half between the end of the line and San Francisco. So, the baby bullet shaves a half hour or a little bit more off of that, which is...
That's good.
Quite good, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So by 2008, Caltrain was running nearly 100 trains a day, an all-time high that stood until very, very recently. So, Frontrunner, for context, with our current, hour off-peak service, half-hour in-peak service, runs about 54 trains a day.
Is that, bidirectional?
Bidirectional.
Runs?
Yeah, bidirectional runs. So they were running about double Frontrunner. They were running 2 Frontrunners worth of service. So that's probably
a Frontrunner forward worth of service, if you will.
Probably more than that, actually. Frontrunner forward would get us 80 some, I think.
Oh, I thought it was supposed to be basically double.
Not quite.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Even that's awesome.
Yes.
But huge, many train, much service.
Yeah. And then, they had another series of budget crises in 2010, where they almost had to do a massive 50% service cut. Yeah.
50%?
50% service cut. Whew. So they would have cut an entire Frontrunner worth of service.
The standard unit of service.
Yes. Yes. And they had to do a pretty big fare increase, a couple of fare increases actually, and a parking fee increase.
Okay, well.
So
Rip their customers.
Yeah, rip their customers, I guess. But they survived it, and they kept growing in ridership, and we're looking for more ways to improve service.
Cool.
I'm glad they survived.
Me too.
That sounds like it was dicey.
I imagine it was probably pretty scary. If you're a Caltrain commuter in 2010, you're like, oh, well, there's going to be a 50% service cut. You're like, what?
But my job.
If I heard that, about tracks, I would just have to start driving to work probably because I don't have time for that crap. Well, biking to work more likely, but,
Yep.
If I lived in Bountiful and they'd done or if I still worked, because, I used to live at the university and work in Bountiful. If I still did that and that happened, then I would have to start driving to work.
I still don't know how you did that normally.
Because I'm a nutcase and an environmentalist freak show. And it was only an hour and a half, so...
Yeah.
Each way.
Certainly one of the commutes.
I am technically a super commuter. Despite going roughly 12 miles. I don't know how far it was. It might have been like 8 miles.
It honestly could have been.
If I could get the 455, it was pretty decent, but most of the time I just had to take
how long is the 455 ride?
That would be like an hour commute.
That's like direct. That's still a while, though.
Yeah, because I had to walk a lot on both ends. And,
that would do it.
But it was normally better to just take the 3 to Front Runner. Rest in peace, the 3.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that one.
That's why I was mad when they killed it.
What, you don't like the 223?
It was my commute for a while, man. I was attached to that bus route. So, yeah. Where the hell were we? Oh, yeah, talking about service cuts. But, they recovered from that, like we said. And they were on the verge of something really great in 2019 after a 2017 bill that allowed them to propose levying a sales tax. And they'd also started work on their long-anticipated electrification and modernization program in 2017, which would have essentially turned Caltrain into the missing BART link on the peninsula with 15-minute headways and electrified trains. Say the words.
Then came Rona.
Yeah.
Gosh.
So
why did I have to say that?
Bye all the all the plans.
Well, not really, but it was kind of bad for a while because as far as I can tell, Caltrain was the hardest hit public transportation anywhere in the country and maybe in the world.
Really? More so than BART?
Maybe in the world in terms of COVID ridership issues. They almost immediately lost 95% of their ridership, plummeting from over 60,000 riders a day to about 1,200.
So what do they do? So are they like literally an office commute service?
Yes and no.
Or
so if you're aware of like the economic geography of the San Francisco Bay Area, this would make more sense to you. But like the South Peninsula and San Francisco itself are very, very wealthy. And so probably a lot of people, were commuting on Caltrain to work or, taking it for other things. But now that there's COVID and we don't want to be around other people,
gotta go in the bubble.
All of those trips we're going to take in the car now.
Because bubble.
So it had a very wealthy clientele.
I mean, I would have just taken my hamster ball on the train, but
Yeah. This, of course, led to them losing about $9 million a day in operating costs.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a lot of fare money a year. Good God.
Yeah, it was a lot of fare money.
That is a lot of fare money.
Okay.
But Caltrain has recovered from this, so they passed the ballot measure that was going to grant them an 1/8 of a cent sales tax to give them $100 million a year in dedicated revenue on top of fare revenue.
But when's our 8% sales tax?
Eighth of a cent.
Oh.
We already have 0.65. That's only 0.125.
Okay.
Yeah.
But to be fair, we run more than
we
just
could use
Front
0.125. We could use another 0.125.
Yeah.
I wouldn't complain.
No, me neither.
We should take a whole another 0.25.
We should just round up to 1 is what we should
agree.
do. But anyway, they passed it, and now they operate good service again. They run about 108 trains a day, beating that 2008 record. All stations see trains at least every hour on weekends and at least every half hour on weekdays. And the busiest stations see trains as often as every 15 minutes, and express service has returned.
Cool.
They've also recovered, not to a high level in ridership, but they're doing 20,000 riders again as of last summer. So, pretty good. The situation this is something that needs to be brought awareness to, and we're going to be talking about it probably every episode. Every Bay Area transit agency, with the current exception of probably the SFMTA, Caltrain, and maybe the VTA in San Jose, is facing a horrific fiscal cliff.
Because they used to be highly dependent on fare revenue.
Because they are all used well enough to have been gaining a significant portion of their revenue via fares.
And then COVID.
And now there's not as many people on board, and federal money is going to run out in 2025, like all the emergency grant money.
Mm-hmm.
And then when that happens, if they don't manage to miraculously get all their riders back.
BART is talking about running half-hour service ending at 9 on weekdays. Is how bad their loss of revenue would be.
That's a great way to lose even more riders.
That's what we call a death spiral. I don't think the SFMTA is that affected by this because it's a city agency, so it's property tax revenue is funded probably.
Yeah.
But a lot of Bay Area transit agencies, especially more commuter-oriented ones, are in like real big trouble. So if you live in California, write your state legislature, tell them to like give money to Bay Area transit agencies. Otherwise,
recurring
climate
funding.
change.
It's almost like we need these transit agencies in the long term.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's not good.
That's very bad, especially since BART service, no offense, BART, is particularly kind of bad already. Like all their lines run every 15 minutes.
I mean, they are like 20x interlined, but still.
They're only 4x interlined at maximum.
Oh,
like they
true.
only run 16 trains an hour through the Market Street subway and the Transbay Tube. I suppose the Y might be a capacity limiter, but like still, 16? We run that. Well, we run... TriMet does that over the gosh darn steel bridge, if they can... So,
And BART still hasn't figured out how to magically reclaim all its riders.
No.
Best they've got so far is taller fare gates and twice as many police.
A winning strategy.
It might actually end up being an okay strategy.
That sounds like a start to a strategy.
Sounds like a strategy at the very least.
Yeah.
Which is more than some other agencies have.
Some agencies, yes.
Some
agencies.
unnamed agencies.
Yeah.
Unnamed Transit Authority.
Moving on, Caltrain's electrification and service improvement program, which is known as CalMod, includes electrification, CBTC, new rolling stock with 75% of their old diesel stock replaced immediately,
Nice.
and newer diesel trains phased out at the end of their service lives, as well as massively improved service coming basically every 15 minutes everywhere all day.
Isn't that project being shoved forward a whole lot by the high-speed rail project?
It's
Because they want to use
a
the same
component of the
tracks.
high-speed rail project, sort of.
Okay. Because that seems to be
It's
the
important.
impetus. Because the high-speed rail wants
It
the
might be the
tracks.
reason it got so much state funding is maybe
And
it,
why it's
but,
happening
like,
now and not in 2040.
Well, it's been kicked around since the early 2000s. They've been planning on doing it. It's just a long time people were resistant to it. So,
And now they have a bunch of state money, so it's happening whether or not people want it.
yeah. So they should be running sometime next year in 2024.
Cool.
They were supposed to open in like 2022, but
Good
then
God, next year's 2024.
coronavirus,
The Rona.
the Rona.
Yep.
Yeah, and it'll be great. I mean, they're gonna have these beautiful KISS train sets built right here in Salt Lake City.
Yay.
Oh, yeah?
Yes,
The Stadler?
yes, Stadler
Sweet.
KISS. The bi-level ones.
Yeah.
Yes,
Stadler built
Nice
some trains for
trains.
Utah.
they're very
already.
nice trains. They're gonna have like weird 2-level boarding though because Caltrain is weird.
That sounds funny.
And
mostly stupid.
they forgot to do the part of the project where they were going to take it to Salesforce Transit Center, so that's a little unfortunate.
Isn't that kind of like relatively
Yeah, I'm
important?
sure that'll happen eventually.
I'm sure it'll also cost
Probably
like
cost
$20.
$1 trillion.
Everything will happen eventually.
Yes.
Let's just put it that
And
way.
for like an exponentially increasing price.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Everything
so,
will happen before the heat death.
our
of the universe.
stickers, they're going to cost $1 now, but in 2 years,
It's going to cost us $100 to make one of them.
$500 per sticker.
If we're lucky.
Yeah. So,
I don't think we have the raw skill to mismanage
the
stickers
raw
that hard.
stupidity. Yeah.
We'd have to get a transit agency to make them for
We'd
us.
have to...
We could learn that skill.
We'd have to hire the New York MTA or something, and then they could hire a bunch of contractors to come in and consult.
Using the most convoluted and stupid procurement process with like 3 people managing a $2 billion project.
We can have the Port Authority teach us some corruption techniques.
Yes, true.
This is true.
Very true.
We do have to over-engineer the stickers too. Maybe the backing should be like a centimeter thick.
And we have to do an 4-year environmental review for every single sticker we produce.
Oh yeah, and we gotta have some delays in there to increase
Not to mention
labor
community
costs.
impact or statements and
Yeah,
community engagement.
Can we add a bike path on the sticker too?
we could.
I think that's a good plan.
Well, yeah, expensive stickers. Buy them now, I guess.
Can we put the stickers 500 feet underground?
Yes, absolutely.
Why not go a bit deeper?
505?
Yeah.
All right.
That's a bit better.
Specifically
$5 a
so it
sticker.
runs into a seismic fault that makes you have to re-engineer the entire project.
And we can put the office in which we design the stickers underground, too.
And we can make it out of gold.
Yeah.
Just to increase costs.
No, to increase comfort.
To
Not cost.
increase, we're value engineering, okay?
Yeah.
We're the MTA doing value engineering.
Yes. So now the question is, what is in the future for Caltrain? So they're going to have this really good 168 train-a-day service starting in 2024 with electrified trains,
Beautiful.
which is very good. Sometime in the near future, hopefully, they're supposed to be going to Salesforce to connect with like the billion bus routes that go there.
This is
A
another
wise
project.
idea.
This is another project that will probably be shoved through by the high-speed rail project.
Yes, and speaking of high-speed rail, eventually the trains, when, someday, inshallah, CHSR is completed, someday...
Hopefully within our lifetimes, we'll see.
Someday the final stretch of the trains will be along California high-speed rail's tracks. Like, same tracks and everything. They'll share tracks with the commuter trains, probably, which is...
Yeah, smart.
Yeah.
Unlike
It's an arrangement, I'll say that.
It'll be fine.
It's value engineering.
Yeah, actually.
Yes.
And then,
Might actually work.
And the second Transbay crossing.
Yeah, so this is kind of a piece of very recent news. So Cost Snake has eaten the second Transbay crossing. So for a long time, people have realized that the Transbay tube is very capacity constrained because you can only run a certain number of BART trains through it. Constrained.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Constrained,
It works.
Constrained.
It works.
if you will.
It's very capacity constrained. You can only run a certain number of BART trains through it per hour.
Don't they run headways down to 2.5 minutes or something like that?
Yes, but also you can only run BART trains through it.
This is also
Because
another
BART
issue.
has its own gauge.
Well, not only
does?
that,
It's wide gauge.
not only that, but it's a rather
Or broad
small
gauge, I should
tube,
say.
and there's no way you're fitting an intercity train through such a small tube.
Yes.
The BART trains are the shape of the tube. This is why BART trains are the shape they are. Yes.
Yes.
To fit in the
They're
Transbay
subway
tube.
trains, right? So
Okay.
that's kind of a problem because it means that A, you have a limited amount of trains from the East Bay, and B,
You'd have to chop a high-speed train into like 50 pieces to fit it through a tube.
yeah, you can't extend California high-speed rail to Sacramento.
Yikes.
So the state of California now wants to build what's called the second Transbay crossing because, the first one is the BART one, right?
Yeah.
And recently what's come out is that they've decided that they can only do one or the other because they were going to put a second set of BART tracks and a set of standard gauge tracks through there. But now they've decided that because of the cost snake, they can only do one or the other. And so BART is probably not getting a second Transbay crossing,
Right.
but Caltrain is probably going to get a Transbay
So
crossing.
we might end up with
That-
2 commuter services on the East Bay.
It would run along different corridors than BART runs along because BART
Yeah.
doesn't run along established rail corridors by virtue of being a fully grade separated metro.
So would this run along like the freight and Capital
There
Corridor
would, for
corridor?
example, it would probably run along the Capitol Corridor. So Emeryville would have Transbay service, which would be good for Emeryville, I guess.
Yeah.
And along some other routes that aren't kind of served by BART currently, but are in need of high capacity.
That's a good way to
transit.
both improve service quality and raw capacity.
Yes. And you can also, take CHSR to Sacramento. Why anyone would want to go to Sacramento is a different question, but
Sacramento's not that bad.
yeah, I'm just kind of the enemy of their light rail system because it runs half-hour headways on some of its lines.
That's perfectly fair.
Yeah. So, yeah, that would be good, I think.
That'd be great.
Mm-hmm. Any other things anyone wants to talk about in Caltrain relation deals?
I did not go to California, so I don't have too much to say.
We
I
didn't
did not-
ride Caltrain.
We did not so much as go touch a Caltrain station.
But you were in a Cal.
We were in the
So,
Cal
This
part
is
of
true.
the
I don't
thing.
know much about Caltrain, so I can't really complain about it.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, eBart.
I think my main takeaway from this is that this is what Frontrunner should be doing now. We should be installing
Really?
CBTC. We should be electrifying. We should be undertaking maybe an ambitious tunnel project to a certain outlying area of our metro. Logan.
Yep.
Dude, if TriMet can do the tunnel through the mountain, why can't we?
We would never get a tunnel to Logan. Ever. Never.
Probably not.
Never, ever.
No, because it would cost like probably $1 billion because of the cost snake.
And the cutoff is fine.
If we were as ambitious as TriMet, then we could have a tunnel through the mountain.
Well, yeah. If we could maintain the costs that TriMet had, we could also afford
I
a tunnel.
know, TriMet's max tunnel through the mountain on the west side of Portland.
It was $186 million, not $86 million, as I discovered. So about
For
$50
3
million
miles.
a mile
Okay,
60.
but that's like...
for a whole ass tunnel, including a station.
That's cheap.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we spend that amount of money on surface light rail.
These days, per mile.
Yeah. So if we can
Or
have that
for
sort
Austin, we spend $1 billion per mile on surface running light rail.
Right. If we can have that sort of ambition and not completely stupid management, then we could build a tunnel
Well, we don't
through the
have
mountain.
completely stupid management.
UTA is actually pretty good at managing construction projects.
Historically, most of our projects do come in on time and under budget.
And
But-
not like insanely expensive, just like reasonably expensive.
We haven't done construction in
We
a while.
haven't built
so-
anything in
And since
10
the
years now.
board
So.
restructuring and all that, we've probably completely shot ourselves in the feet.
Yep, we probably are going to, because you know what they say, they want to spend $100 million per mile on the Point of the Mountain extension for the Blue Line if they do that. So, even though it is
In a rail corridor.
a fully existing and almost fully grade separated rail corridor.
Yeah. It's
So-
not even funny. If you go on the bike path down there, yeah, it's just bridges. Obviously, they'd have to tear them down and put new bridges in, but it's a grade separated rail corridor.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just there.
It,
UTA owns it. UTA owned land for station
there's no
parking lots.
land acquisition. That
No,
would-
they already did it when they were smart back in the day.
The same for the Central Corridor light rail in Utah County, the one
Yeah.
that would go along State Street from Vineyard to
Yeah.
Point of the Mountain.
They
We own all the stuff. We could do it tomorrow if we wanted to, but we're still going to spend a crap ton of money on it.
Stacy and Whitbeck, just do it.
So, yeah, have some ambition, guys. Make Frontrunner great again.
And also,
MFRG at Mafurga.
We'll have our Mafurga hats soon.
goodness, if we had the tunnel to
Will they be
Logan,
They
Purple?
can be red for red line.
Ooh, Mafurga hats.
Ooh. Let's see, if we had the tunnel to Logan, we would have to electrify because tunnel.
Not true. Not true. You can just do what Amtrak does through the really long tunnel in Colorado and just make sure nobody goes between the cars so the diesel fumes don't get into the cab.
Yeah, we can do that.
We definitely should electrify.
Yeah.
And then,
We'll have a single track tunnel to Logan.
oh my, no. I will commit violence
We
in,
could.
in Minecraft.
We'll build a different one later. 'Cause that will definitely be a good idea. Because why build something once?
When you can build it twice.
Thank
or
you.
more.
Or more.
Or more.
We could
Yeah.
build a BRT tunnel first.
Ooh.
MBTA style.
Yes, a mixed traffic BRT tunnel.
No.
That would sell, actually.
If we built an actual electric double track rail tunnel, I think we'd get like max levels of ridership from providing just such a compellingly fast transportation.
Yeah, well,
And
who wants-
safe.
Fast, safe, reliable.
Yeah, because, like, you know, when there's those terrible storms in Sardine Pass, you know,
Every day.
every day,
It's-
all winter,
it's
you
the
just
same-
get on the front runner.
It's the same reason that the Max tunnel has been so successful, because it's such a compellingly fast and
Has
convenient
been.
transportation option compared to driving around or over the mountain. And they don't even have bad weather.
No, and they have an actual freeway that goes through the mountain instead of a... And it's a light rail train and not a regional rail train.
Yeah, so this would be a really, really compelling transportation service that would net Frontrunner a lot of ridership. And if Frontrunner was a private company, they would have built it already and would be
Well-
rolling in cash right now.
Yeah. Logan isn't that big of a market, I guess, is the only
Yet.
concern I have with that.
Yet.
That is true, because
It's
we're done
growing.
suburbanizing Salt Lake County. We're getting close in Weber, Davis, and Utah. So the next place, obvious target for Salt Lake's exurbs are Logan.
The last frontier until
Yeah,
we go
the
into
final
Idaho.
frontier until, like, Preston, Idaho becomes a commuting suburb of Salt Lake City.
Yeah, and it's not just Logan's population. You also got to take into account it's a college town, and there's a lot of transportation
Blech.
demand coming from that alone.
Oh, but we don't want you USU students down here. They're
they're weird.
Yeah.
And nobody from here would ever want to go there.
No, what? Are you kidding me? Who would go up to Logan?
Yeah, all you can do there is freeze and
go fishing once.
Okay, so anyways, go Caltrain. Good job having ambition. You're letting. Good thing they got the
Glad
state
you're
money.
not gonna have a fiscal crisis like Bart. That's
Yep.
nice.
Yeah, thanks for being cool and improving your service.
I hope Pete Buttigieg rides you on the opening day.
I feel like he's kind of trains phobic, to be honest with you. Like he talks a big talk about public transportation, but he's a cager. Cause what he did when he came to Salt Lake City to ride the tracks is
he came
first.
to Salt Lake?
This is a while ago.
Okay.
This was a while ago.
Is they let him off the car, let him trespass across the tracks at Jackson Euclid Station.
What?
Yeah, first of all,
places.
Jackson Euclid Station,
Okay,
probably not
interesting.
the best place to show the Secretary of Transportation. And then rode it to the airport, from where he was chauffeured to a private jet in a car.
Oh my God.
What? We need a transportation secretary that's going to
Who
ride the
walks
whole
the
line.
Why isn't the man I doubt he. Do you think he rides the metro to work in D.C.?
No.
I don't
I
think so.
doubt it.
Why
No,
would
just
he?
have
He's
your
the
security
transportation
follow you
secretary.
around on
Yeah.
the train. They'll run a train
No
just
one's
for you.
trying to assassinate the Secretary of Transportation.
They would if he was doing stuff, but...
Well, even if he was, no one's trying to assassinate the Secretary of Transportation.
Yeah, we all do that
The
politically.
only people who ever get assassinated in this country are occasionally ambassadors and a lot of presidents.
Yeah.
And important figures.
But the Secretary of Transportation.
I'm not going
Maybe
after
because
him.
he's gay.
Nah, that's not happening anymore, is it?
Pew, 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 pew.
I mean, Iowa just made gay marriage illegal again. So, illegal, that is.
How?
They passed a law to make it illegal again.
God.
And the law has not
The
yet
law
been
hasn't
struck
been
down by
struck
the-
down yet, so it's temporarily illegal in Iowa. But their idea is to force it back to the Supreme Court so the Supreme Court can make gay marriage illegal again because it's controlled by the Federalist Society now.
Yep. And they probably would.
They will.
Yeah.
Read the Constitution.
Equal protection under the law? More like equal protection under my ass. Suck it. Quote from Brett Kavanaugh, Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States of America.
Great. Be
Fun
gay,
times.
ride trains. This has been the Red Line Podcast.
Thanks for listening. If you like what we do here, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube, and to follow us and leave a rating on iTunes and Spotify. If you really like what we do, please consider becoming a member on Patreon. Patrons get access to our current content early, as well as a bonus episode produced roughly every month, as well as some other fringe benefits like stickers.
Stickers.
And Discord.
Oh yeah, that is also Patreon exclusive.
Yeah.
We do have a Discord.
Yeah.
So, our patrons are...
Frontrunner Flying Through the Sky tier.
you could say Caltrain tier.
At Caltrain tier, we have Zach Adams at $69.69.
Zach Adams, Curtis Herring, Devin Zander, Mike Christensen, Phobos2390, Brian Smith, Christopher Whaley, Jacob Wycotton, Reluctant LA resident Robert P. Walsh and Scott Harris, Alex Dykelski, Ben Busath, Bradley Bondi, and DJ Will Watkins.
You skipped just cause.
Well, you have to.
I think we're in different orders.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Somebody say what? Hi, Will already.
I will.
Thank you. Elijah Kensler, Ethan McDonald, G4, and Gonzo 12. Jack Dean, John Heron, Gorman, Just Causes, Martin Hecker Martinez, Old
Right,
Trolley,
Dean.
Patrick Salas, Schuyler Hall, and Seth. These are all of our patrons as of... What's today's date?
Pi Day.
Pi Day.
3/14/2023.
That was.
I was in that play, so
Oh,
I can do the whole actual
What,
song if you want.
what play?
Pirates of Penzance.
Never heard of it.